Welcome back to the Fanspeak Network and a very quick evergreen strategy session for you today. Hopefully this will be applicable all through the rest of the best ball draft season. And what we're talking about today is contest selection. And I think it's something that should be talked about a little bit more in the best ball space. It's talked about all the time in DFS. Established Run, I know, does an excellent job about talking through contest selection in DFS. If you're not just playing for fun and shooting for the $1 million, there are ways to try to really, look out for your ROI in DFS. And they talk about contest selection line. I wanted to quickly talk about that. Before I do, obviously be sure to like this episode and subscribe if you haven't already to the Fanspeak Network. As you see the ticker on the bottom, we have a Road to 1,000 subs promotion going. Road to 1,000 subs. When we hit 1,000 subs, it'll be a big party and there'll be $1,000 of giveaways when we hit 1,000 subs. So that's the first big announcement. Second is, if you're watching this before August 23rd, mark that calendar for August 23rd, because we will be doing a 8-hour live stream, 4 p.m. to midnight, just a Friends of Best Ball Friday night party, 4 p.m. to midnight on Friday, August 23rd. So mark that calendar. But again, help us get to 1,000 subs. As Pat McAfee would say, be a friend, tell a friend, and we would appreciate that. But now let's talk about contest selection quickly in best ball. So I'll be forthcoming here. I wish my life bankroll was a little better. Maybe after this best ball season it will be, but I don't have unlimited bankroll. I don't have unlimited time. And so if you don't have either or one or both of those things, you do have to make some choices about how you want to handle your best ball portfolio, what contests you're entering. So because I can't enter it all, I've had to make some hard choices this year of how I want to break up my allocation of tournaments. I still will be shooting for the 250 total drafts since Best Ball Mania to hit as part of that Gladiator program, which is amazing on Underdog. I know Steve is targeting the 500 total drafts as part of the Gladiator program. Underdog is amazing in everything they do, but they released this Gladiator program, so you obviously get some rake back on that. So Steve's shooting for 500 drafts. I'm shooting for 250. And with that said, of that 250, as much as I love BBM this year, and BBM is so much better this year than last year in regards to a better advance rate in the semifinals, 1-13 versus 1-16, and a much flatter payout structure. Essentially, you are profiting because you make your money back if you make the finals. But with that said, it's still going to be a gauntlet to make the finals in BBM. It's 1-13, 1-16 to make the BBM finals. And that is not an easy path. The mistake I made last year personally was I did, on 3 different sites, close to 200 drafts on 3 different sites last year, and a ton were on DraftKings, the Millie Maker, BBM, puppies and chihuahuas and stuff. And last year the advance rates were not great at all. So I was left disappointed because I had a bunch of semifinals but no finals last year after making the finals the prior year in BBM 3. And I was so devastated and bummed. And what I realized is I care about making the finals. I care about my total ROI. So I think the 3 points I want to make about contest selection is, number one, what are your goals? What are your goals of best ball season? Just like they say in DFS, if it's just a fun equity sweat, then BBM only is probably the ticket for you because you're just shooting for that ginormous prize pool. If it is just the biggest prize pool or the notoriety or prestige that comes with like making the BBM finals, then okay, I get maxing that. But know your goals. Like, is it for fun? Is it for kind of that prestige of making the finals in BBM? Then okay, then you may want to max it. But if not, then you may want to consider some other tournaments. For me personally, again, I'm doing 250 total Underdog tournaments. And by the way, know where you're good at. I did not do well 2 years in a row on DraftKings Best Ball. Clearly, I'm better at half point PPR than full point PPR and bonuses. So I'm just all Underdog. I'm going to be 250 a goal on Underdog only. That's how I'm handling it. So for me, last year, I did 50 BBMs. This year, I'm going to do 75 since the advance rate and payout structure is better, but I'm still not maxing it. Why? Because my goals are different than just like the fun, or I have to have be playing for $1.5 million on week 17. I would be very happy to win 5 or 6 figures on week 17. So therefore, I will be entering a lot of other tournaments. And my main goal is ROI. Before I move on to my second point, I do want to say that when you hear a lot of talk about max entering, and don't get like FOMO about that or anything. I made the BBM 3 finals with 9 BBM entries. I only drafted about 50 total drafts on multiple sites that year in 2022 season. Of the 50 drafts, I had 9 BBM entries. I think of those 9, 2 or 3 made the playoffs and 1 made the BBM 3 finals. And because of that, I am hooked on best ball forever because it was the best sweat of my life. It was amazing. So, but then again, last year I had close to 200 drafts, 50 BBM, and semifinals, but no finals appearances. So that's just something to keep in mind. Don't get FOMO when you hear people talking about max entering. You can still make the finals without max entering. Let me say that. However, again, when I said number 1, decide your goals. If your goals are like, this is the most important to me, just having that fun sweat, or I only think it's super fun if it's going for a 7-figure payday, or I love that notoriety of making the BBM finals, then sure, maybe you want to put your more allocation there. But my personal goals is ROI, is making week 7, having a week 17 sweat. That's my personal goal. So if your goal is ROI, then what my strong suggestion would be is decide how much you want to maybe pull back from BBM to enter into some of these smoother advance rate contests. Again, this is if you don't have unlimited bankroll. If you have unlimited bankroll, do it all. But if you don't have unlimited bankroll like I do, then decide how much, and your goal is total ROI and a week 17 sweat. That's my goals. I'll speak to that. This is how I'm handling it. I'm doing approximately 75 half on a BBM. So still more than I did last year. A lot are stream drafts, which I'm having fun in the streets with you all. But 75 BBM, and then ideally 125, if hopefully I can get there, of all the different smooth advance rates. When I say smooth advance rates, I mean like the single entry, 3 max, 5 max, 10 max, 20 max, but not just that, the advance rates where it's like 2 of 10 or 1 of 5 or 1 of 6 to advance to the semifinals, advance to semifinals, advance to the finals. Those like 1 of 6, 1 of 5, that's a dream for me compared to the gauntlet of like 1 of 13, 1 of 16. So I'm looking for those smooth advance rate. Yeah, a lot of them are single entry, 5 max, 3 max, 10 max, 20 max, but I'm looking for those smooth advance rate. Does it guarantee me a finals appearance? No, but if I have a good advance rate like I did last year, which was 27% on underdog, then hopefully it gives me a little better shot and a cleaner shot by having much nicer advance rate. So that would be number 2, is if your goal is ROI and just a week 17 sweat, not necessarily a BBM sweat, then I would keep those types of tournaments in mind. Underdog keeps releasing them, and they are excellent. However, I will make a note that I just made a mistake they released the Pitbull and the Corgi, and I did not pay attention enough to the payout structure, and you actually don't get paid, make your money back if you make the playoffs. You only do if you make the semifinals. So that's something I want to keep in mind too, because again, what is one of my goals? Total ROI. And total ROI, I want to get paid off for making the playoffs. It's hard to make the playoffs. Again, my goal is to have over a 25% advance rate to playoffs again this year. I did the year prior, I had much less teams, but my goal is to have over 25% advance rate. My goal is to make the playoffs in as many contests and many teams as humanly possible. But I want to get paid to make the playoffs. So I'm going to be paying attention to that. So number 2 is, if your goal is ROI, look for those smooth advance rates, but also pay attention to the payout structure. And number 3, and the final recommendation would be, again, if you don't have unlimited bankroll and your goal isn't just, I need to be a finalist in the BBM and have a 7-figure sweat, well, then I'd also recommend checking out the different contests that Underdog enters. Again, I'm pumping Underdog's tires a lot of ways here because I absolutely love that they listen to their customers. I love the Gladiator program. I love that they made BBM flatter and a better advance rate in the semifinal or quarterfinals. I love that they're offering all these other different types of tournaments to give us different types of sweats. And that would be my third and final suggestion, is mix up, diversify the types of tournaments. So I'm going to do ideally 200 of those, like classic, let's call a contest, the contests that we know and love, BBM and those other smoother advance rate, whether it's a puppy or a hound dog or a pit bull or a bulldog or whatever it is. I'm doing all of those, but it's the type of most of them, some of them have a little better advance rate out of playoffs, but it's where, 2 out of the pod. And then it has, again, different advance rates depending on which type of tournament. Underdog now offers so many other options for us. And I think that's a good way to diversify the types of contests you're entering if it's not just classic. So I'm entering 200 of the classic is the plan, and then 50 to 75 of like the non-traditional kind of, I'll just call them. And obviously that's the 4 main ones are weekly winners, eliminator, sprint, and marathon. And eliminator is going to be full soon. That was one I didn't do well. I only dabbled in last year, didn't do well, didn't really feel like learning it this year. Weekly winners intrigued me to have that weekly sweat equity. And I did about make my money back just dabbling with it last year. So I am going to do about 25 of those. And I'm about halfway through that. So do love the weekly winners, getting in the weekly winner streets. Not in the eliminator streets, but I know a lot of people that are. Then you've got the marathon, which is basically like what drafters is, where it's season long. 1 through 17, every week means the same amount, cumulative scoring. That's interesting because you'd need different strategies for that. And then the sprint, which is basically your 2 out of 12 in your pod to advance to the playoffs. But once you make it to the playoffs, then it's cumulative scoring. So then that's where you don't have to worry about pod luck. That's another thing in BBM that people will lose their minds over. Peter Overzet had to do a video to calm everybody down last year about, this is a lotto. And unfortunately, this pod luck is going to happen. Well, now Underdog has an answer to that. The sprint contest is the answer to, I hate the pod luck and dealing with that. When I get into the playoffs and the quarterfinals and semifinals, I would have made the semis or I would have made the finals if I was in a different pod. You have to worry about that if you're in the sprint. Just try to have the best cumulative playoff score. And yes, it is $50. That's a little more expensive. Hopefully they'll offer it at multiple price points next year. But that would be my third and final suggestion is diversify other types of contests, not just our BBM and hound dogs and puppies and pit bulls and all those good tournaments. They're awesome. And that's what I'm doing at least 200 of, but I'm doing 50 to 75 of those other ones, mainly for me, weekly winners, sprint, and marathon. So that mixes it up. Maybe you would succeed a little bit more. Your weekly winners will give you sweat equity each week. The other contests, maybe it leans into your strengths more. You don't know. So that would be a third and final suggestion. So just to recap, number 1, decide your goals, what's important to you. And from there, that will determine the types of tournament allocation. Because by the way, nothing's wrong. I mean, hell, if you have unlimited bankroll and time, that's awesome. Good for you. I hope I have some better bankroll next year to not have to stress about these decisions as much. But bottom line is whatever your goals are, no judgment. It's whatever is most important to you. So number 1, decide your goals, and whatever they are, that's great. Just go for it then. Again, if it's more like I need to be a BBM finalist or I need a 7-figure sweat, then yeah, I get investing more in BBM. If it's I need a week 17 sweat and I want to really look out on my bottom line ROI, then I would highly recommend investing a little bit more, even if you have to pull back from BBM, into some of those cleaner, smoother advance rate tournaments. And I've named those like 18 times, so I won't bore you again with that. And then number 3, and finally, is just diversify maybe some of the types of tournaments you do outside of BBM and all those other smooth advance rate tournaments. Dabble in weekly winners or eliminator or sprint or marathon. Maybe you'll find something that you're really good at and it can just expand your love for best ball. So those would be my 3 main points. Again, because DFS has now been around for a dozen years, it's talked about a lot in the DFS space. It's really not talked about as much in the best ball space. And then, after week 16, a lot of people were just angry and sad. And I was sad last year. So I think this is a way there are no guarantees, by the way, that just because I'm being a little more cautious about my contest selection that I am guaranteed a week 17. By no means do I think that. But I do hope that if I have a good advance rate this year, or I have some success in those other tournaments, that I do have some week 17 sweats. And I hope you do too. So hopefully this has been beneficial to you in some way, shape, or form. And it's just something to keep in mind. But I will see you in the streets, be it BBM or these cool other advance rates or these cool other contests, I will see you in the streets. This has been fun. Again, remember, help us get Road to 1,000. Join us for the August 23rd live stream, and make sure you smash that like button and make sure you're subscribed. Thank you so much for joining me today. And of course, I will see you next time.